Hi everyone, welcome back to Forever in High School. I am going to give a quick book review on Stamped. Everyone needs to read this book. I recently finished The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan, and that very night I immediately started to read Stamped, which I had bought from Barnes & Noble during one of my book hauls like a couple of days before that. And I'm so glad that I did. So this is Stamped, and this book is actually a remix, it says it right here, of Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. And so this is a shorter version of Stamped from the Beginning, and I got the impression as well after reading some parts of Stamped from the Beginning that this version is not only shorter, but the voice is different. It breaks down everything very easily, but it doesn't go into as much depth of the historical events that occur in here as much as Stamped from the Beginning. Now that I've finished this book, I really want to pick up Stamped from the Beginning and read that as well. I'm telling you, you guys need to read this book. I'm not even kidding. I will have the link so you can buy a copy of your own below. I've learned so much just from reading this, and this is not a history book, at least not the history book that you were taught. And these are Ibram X. Kendi's words himself from the introduction. So Jason Reynolds took parts of Stamped from the Beginning and then adapted it and wrote Stamped. He so eloquently, in order, goes from the very beginning and talks about how racist ideas have endured throughout history. He talks about the very first racist, who that was, and then he goes all the way to the present day. I have learned so much just by reading this condensed version, basically. What I learned is there are 3 different positions that a person, doesn't matter what color, can take. There's the segregationist, there's the assimilationalist, and then there's the anti-racist. Jason Reynolds mentions so many historical people that we know of: Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Phyllis Wheatley, Angela Davis, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, etc. And what he does is he talks about how these people that we already know, we generally know about, where their position was throughout their life. And so there were a bunch of things that I discovered, like how Martin Luther King went from being an assimilationalist to anti-racist, and how Malcolm X was always anti-racist, and how Abraham Lincoln was an assimilationalist. So just learning about these terms has helped me understand systemic racism even more. And something that I really like about this book is Jason Reynolds' voice is likable. It's so funny. He adds his own spin on how he explains things in here. It's not just a boring, typical history book with all these dates and all these people's names. So it's very entertaining, even though it's not your typical history book. I highly, highly recommend this book. Please read it. Please educate yourself. So I'm going to read a passage from Ibram X. Kendi's introduction, which encompasses the reason why he decided to write Stamped from the Beginning in the first place. I somehow managed to write Stamped from the Beginning between the heartbreaking deaths of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin and 17-year-old Darnisha Harris, and 12-year-old Tamir Rice, and 16-year-old Kimani Gray, and 18-year-old Michael Brown. Heartbreaks that are a product of America's history of racist ideas, as much as a history of racist ideas is a product of these heartbreaks. What Ibram X. Kendi has done in Stamped from the Beginning, and what Jason Reynolds has adapted in this book, is the source of those racist ideas. Where did these racist ideas come from in the first place? And in order to understand where we are at in 2020, we need to go back to the very beginning and understand how these racist ideas came about in the first place. Because if we want any change to happen, we have to be educated. Let me know in the comments, have you read Stamped? Have you read Stamped from the beginning? What other novels have you read by Black authors? Do you have any more book recommendations for me? I'm always open to those. Bye!